Welcome to Access Europe for February 2025. And today I'm pleased to announce that we have John Mallinson from the west of Scotland, who has a VBE add-in called VBE Extras that he is going to demonstrate to you. And it's a commercial product, but it's very reasonably priced for the features that it offers. And later in the session, there'll be a chance for one of you to win a free copy of the software. So, John, welcome. If you'd like to introduce yourself and then over to your presentation, you may take over anytime from when I stop sharing. Over to you, John.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm John Mallinson. As Colin said, I'm based in, well, not only the west of Scotland, but West Lothian in Scotland. I've been using VBA now for over 20 years, along with a number of other languages, most recently C#. C# is what VBA Extras is written in, but also some Python and Java and others. I used to work for large IT corporations until 2019. At which point I left and decided to go on my own, and I've been since then freelancing on Upwork. A little bit about VBE Extras. Though it's an add-in for the VBE, the Visual Basic Editor, it provides additional functionality, extra functionality, I should say, for the VBE, hence the name. It was really the basic nature of the VBE that frustrated me enough to try and make the VBE a little bit more Visual Studio-like. If anyone is used to using Visual Studio, it's actually the tool that I write the C# code in that VBE Extras is created in. And it just provides an awful lot more functionality than the plain basic VBE. Just so you all understand, my primary focus is on Excel and Word, Outlook and PowerPoint, not Access. But the key thing is VBE Extras does work in Access. And when we're looking at the functionality, and I'll show you a slide of this in a moment, why that specific functionality? Why did I decide to add these particular features? And the simple answer is I needed it. I developed VBA code for a living, and I needed additional features to make that a quicker and simpler thing to do. And the process I went through, so I started with what I call the declaration and references engine. So what I fundamentally wanted to be able to do was for any reference, I wanted to be able to identify the declaration, whether it's a procedure or a variable or an enum or whatever it is. So I want to be able to identify the declaration, where it was and what the declaration was. And then also from that declaration, I wanted to be able to find all the other references. Having developed that, then that allowed me to go on from there to develop things like the rename command and the highlight command and others. And there'll be some of the things that you'll see during the demonstration. How do you get VBE Extras? You go on the website, the link's there. It's also, I think, in your slides, Colin, and on your website. The VBE Extras comes with a 60-day free trial. All functionality is included in that. Some functionality is also free beyond the free trial period. And if you want to see the details of which functionality, check out the website. It identifies all that for you. So you can continue using it even if you've not got a license. However, an annual license is only $30 a year. And that one license works across all of the applications that VBE Extras supports. And that one license works on all of your devices if you use the same username. And Colin mentioned just a little bit earlier that we'll be doing an offer of a free license at the end of this demo. So just to give you a feel for the commands, the scale of functionality that's provided by VBE Extras. So I'm very aware that the writing on this slide is very small. I'm absolutely not going to read it all out, but it's just to give you a feel for the number of commands that there are. So there's 77 different commands that VBE Extras provides. There's a few of those that don't work in Access, and that's those listed in red. Predominantly those work in Excel. And there's one command that only works if you're using the English language as your user interface language. That's makeup and explicit. All the other functions that you see that are then not red or green, so the vast majority of all the functions work in Access. And the reason for the yellow and blue highlighting, so I often get asked questions about, well, isn't VBE Extras, isn't it just MZ Tools? What's the difference? Why would I bother with VBE Extras? I've got MZ Tools. So the yellow and blue highlighting is designed to give you a feel for just how different the tools are. So the commands that are highlighted yellow are those where it's pretty much the same as MZ Tools. And those highlighted blue are where it's similar functionality to MZ Tools. So the key takeaway really is that the vast majority of the functionality, the individual commands, are not highlighted and are therefore different. So of those 77, the next slide is the last slide before I show you the tool. It's just a list of the items that we'll cover in the demo today. So of the 77 commands, we're going to look at, if we get time to go through them all, we're going to look at 20 of them today. So this is the VBE that everyone will be used to and familiar with, and this has VBE extras loaded in it. There's various ways you can access the functionality of VBE extras, and the main way of doing that is through the menus. So when you have downloaded and installed VBE extras, you'll notice that there's an extras item in the menu here, which gives you an additional whole list of things you can do there. That's the main menu. There's also a menu in the code window, which has a subset of the functionality available in the main menu. There's a menu in the project window as well. In fact, there's two. This is, if you right click on the project, you get a set of options available to you. It's context sensitive. So you'll notice here that references of project is there. If I right click on a module, you get a slightly different menu. So now we're seeing references of module as an option. And there's a menu in the immediate window with just a couple of things in there. And there's other menus in the user form view as well. We also have a toolbar across here. This is the VBE Extras toolbar. You can customize the buttons, the commands that appear in the toolbar. If you do add and remove buttons and customize, or you can access this through the settings. Then this is a dialog allowing you to reorder the commands, add or remove them. There's keyboard shortcuts for many of the commands as well. You can change and customize or switch off completely the keyboard shortcuts if you want. Just looking in the menu here, you see that they're listed where there's a keyboard shortcut for a particular command, and it's listed in the menu as well. The other thing that you can do, because there's quite a few commands that VBE Extras provides, if you are not sure which menu or how to access a command, but you know what you're looking for, command search is the place to go. If you click on this, it just provides you with a list of all the commands. And then if you know the name or part of the name, for example, you can type it in and it will list for you the command. Yeah, and once you've got that, you can highlight it and you see, gives you the keyboard shortcut if there is one, which menu it's in and whether it's in the toolbar. You can also click execute just to run that command directly from here. The last way of triggering functionality is that some of the commands actually work using the keys VBE Extras is monitoring. So for example, for the history app that I will show you later, it's tracking your keys and where you're moving around inside the project and the code and logging what you're doing. So the first thing that I'm going to demonstrate, the first actual piece of functionality I'll demonstrate is the immediate window. So clearing and going to the start and end of the immediate window. There's two ways really you can do this. So you can do it manually through the menu items or the toolbar, or VBE Extras will do it automatically for you when you run code using F5 or step into it using F8, or if you use the equivalent menu items. So I'll demonstrate this for you. First of all, what I'm going to do is actually create some content in the immediate window. So we've got something to look at. So I'm just going to run this subroutine that my cursor's in here a couple of times, and you'll see we've got some content populating there. And you can see that the scroll bar here is down at the bottom of the window. So what I can do using the menu if I want. So we're currently looking at the end of the content in the immediate window. We can scroll to the start. Or we can scroll to the end. Or indeed we can clear the content in the immediate window. If I run that again, I'll just show you again using the toolbar. So you can scroll to the start, you can scroll to the end, and you can clear. The additional option, so I mentioned also that VBE Extras will do this automatically for you. So again, I'll just create some content in the window there. And in the settings, we have options here for what to do in the immediate window when I run code, in this case with, as I said, F5 or F8. So I've got options to either clear the immediate window or go to at the end of the immediate window, or just to do nothing. Of course, one of the things that we often get with the VBE in the immediate window is you'll have some content in there and you will maybe move around in it, move your cursor around in it, so you're reading the information. And then you come to run the code again. And what normally happens is that the new text that's sent to the immediate window is just sent right to wherever your cursor is, and you get that mixed up and muddled up with everything else that's going on in the immediate window. So because I changed the setting to go to the end of the immediate window, if I now run code, and I'll use the menu so you can see what I'm doing, then when the cursor is currently in the middle of all that content, because I use that setting, it will now jump to the end of the immediate window before running the code, and the new content will be sent cleanly to the end of all the existing content. Or at least it would if I had my cursor in the right place. There we go. So that's the new content following all the existing content. The other option we have, again, I'll put my cursor in the middle of the immediate window, is that I can clear the immediate window first if that's what I'd rather do. And again, now if I run that sub, you'll see that all the content from the immediate window will be cleared before the new content is sent. There we go. We've only got the new content. Okay, so the next functionality I'm going to demonstrate, I mentioned about the declarations and references engine, is the kind of core of the functionality. It's the initial functionality that I developed. So I'm just going to move over to this, which I assume everyone's quite familiar with, probably more than me.
Tom will be very happy that you're using this.
What the functionality I'm going to demonstrate first here is listing the declarations. And there's a number of things you can do here. You can list the declarations in any particular procedure or property that your cursor is in. You can list them all in a module, the active module that's on screen, or you can list all the declarations that exist across an entire project. So I'll show you these one at a time. I'll put my cursor in this function here, get tax status ID, and we'll use VBE extras to get all of the declarations in this procedure and property, which won't be terribly impressive, because many of them. What you can see here is we've now got a list on screen, which shows the line that any particular declaration is in, the name of that declaration, its value type. If it has a value type, only one of them does here, because the other two are line labels. It shows you that type, and it shows you the declaration line. If the declaration line, if it's one logical line made up of many physical lines with line continuations, then you'd actually get a tooltip popping up here as well to show you the entire line. Declarations in this module, which is probably also not terribly thrilling. Again, there's only two declarations in this module, two functions, got all the same information there, but with the addition of the number of lines that the declaration takes up. But when it becomes more interesting with this particular database is when we get a list of all of the declarations in the project. There's quite a few of them. This will take a second or so to run. And what you can see now, if your vision is quite good, is we've found 1,569 declarations across the whole project. Because we're now seeing them across the whole project, the additional column that's appeared here is which module that declaration is in. And then you've got all the other same information. You can't read the full declaration line on this because I'm using a very large font on quite a small screen. But normally you would see the full line of the declaration there over towards the right. Once you've got this list of declarations, there's various things you can do with it. If you want, you can filter it, just type away. You can get a CSV list with it. You can view, you can list all the references for a declaration. The thing I wanted to show you just from here is that you can then, if you highlight a particular declaration, you can then just jump directly to it. So I'm highlighting this is an Enum member. And I'm just going to click on go to, and you'll see that it will just jump us directly to that particular declaration, as well as jumping to a declaration via that particular screen. You can actually just jump directly to any declaration that you might want to without showing the screen first. So if I will click on this, which is the line, is that it's a reference of the line label. If we use go to declaration for codec cursor, or F12 as you can see there, then it just jumps us to the line label. If we say that we want to look at handle error, then it will jump us to that as well. So you don't have to show the dialogue to be able to jump directly to declaration. You can just, well, press F12 is what I do. You can use the menu. So the key thing then was, as well as listing all the declarations or jumping to a particular declaration, really the core of what's all of this is the functionality to be able to find all of the references of a particular declaration. I think there's quite a few references of this particular one. You'll see in the menu, we've got references to codec cursor or shift and F12. So if I run that, it will start running and find all of those for us. Yeah, I did think there was quite a few of this one.
While it's doing that, John, can I just ask Tim's question? Where is it picking up the line numbers from on your previous screen, your list of declarations? Is it getting it from the line numbers built in Northwind, or is it actually deducing it for itself?
No, it's the line within the module. So it's the same as the line number that's shown up here at the top of the screen.
The row number, yeah. Whereas, and your public, the other column was the public line number, the one on the left-hand side there that's been added.
Yeah, well,
where it's available.
When there is an actual line number in the code, then the column on the far right that shows you that line will include that line number, because that column is just literally picking up that particular line of code and showing it to you.
Okay, thanks.
So this was the list of references. And again, having found that list of references, you can then, if you are particularly interested in one, you can click on it and go to it, and it will just jump you directly to that reference. As well as, again, showing the dialogue, you can just jump directly to particular references if you want. There's various ways you can do this. The thing I'm going to show you is the ability to just jump directly to. Another option is you can go to the next code reference in this project or the previous code reference in this project. So if I just click on that menu item, and you can see it's jumped me down. You've also got the option to go to the previous or next reference using the toolbar, which is what I'll do now, just so it's a little bit quicker. And you'll see when I click on this, it'll just jump me to the next reference. And it's, yeah, okay, so I'm now at the last reference. Do I want to go back to the first one? Yes. And I can keep going. I can go to the next and the next and the previous and the previous and so on. The next thing that you might be thinking, well, this is all well and good, but is it finding all these declarations and finding all these references? Is it essentially just a text search? You know, is VBXers going to get confused if multiple declarations have the same name? And no is the answer. It's not going to get confused. And I'm going to demonstrate this for you using this very unpleasant piece of code, which is called this thing. This is something that I've used a number of times to make sure that VBXtras works correctly. And what you've got here in this piece of code is many, many declarations, all with the same name. They're all called this thing. There's events there, there's type members, there's a sub-variable and so on, line label. And VBXtras can figure all this out when it passes the declarations and references. It isn't just a text search. It works out what piece of text relates to which declaration. And I'm going to show this, demonstrate this to you using the highlighting functionality. But first, just to prove that this is valid code, despite the fact that really, really, really it shouldn't be. what I'm going to do is actually step through it. I've gone to a different module because the code is in a class module. The code I'm going to create it from is in this standard module. It just creates an instance and then steps through it. So if I just use F8 to step through, you see that we're creating an instance of it. We're calling the this thing sub, and then we're stepping through it. So the VB is happy that this is valid code, and we've stepped through it. But what we can then do is use highlighting. So highlighting is just a quick way when you've got sometimes a lengthy or complex function displayed on your screen and you can't quite see what is, you maybe want to just quickly see where the next reference is, then highlighting does that for you. So if I click on, for example, the event here, so my cursor is in the event, this thing, and if I run highlighting, as usual, you can do it through the menu, but you can also do it through the toolbar or just press F11. But I'll do it through the toolbar just for now. And you'll see that just for a second or so, the declaration that the cursor is on and the references of that declaration will be highlighted. That's the events, just for example, then this is the type. Member of the type. And I can keep going. So you can identify the line label, and I'll just do the variable as well here. So you can see that it isn't just a text search, it is actually identifying the references that relate to the particular declaration. Highlighting has a couple of other little things as well. So as well as highlighting declarations and references, it will highlight keywords in VBA. So for example, I've now highlighted the dim keyword. If I click on highlighting now, you'll see it's outlined instead of a solid box, an empty box, just to distinguish the fact that it's a keyword rather than a declaration or reference. Let's do debug and raise event. And the last thing that highlighting will do, this might be slightly difficult to see on screen, but it will also highlight if you select a parenthesis or speech mark. If you select an opening one, it will highlight the closing one and vice versa. So for example, that's the opening parenthesis there, and it will highlight the closing parenthesis, and just demo the closing speech mark there, and it will highlight the opening one. And again, it's if we had a string that had an escaped speech mark, so it's not just looking for the immediately previous speech mark, it's actually looking at the text and making sense of it. If I do that and highlight from here, you'll see that it will still highlight the opening speech mark, not the escaped speech mark in the middle of the string.
John, can they also identify nested parentheses in the same way?
Yes, it can indeed do that. So I'll just make something up.
And there's another question from Tim I'll ask as well while he's still on this screen, because it'd be easier.
Yeah. So can you see that that's still picking up the appropriate one?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Go on.
His question is if you might need to increase the font size to something ridiculous to prove this if necessary. He says, what if you need to scroll down the listing to see the highlights? Do they stay visible until you turn them off?
No, the highlighting is just temporary. In fact, the VBE window is locked. You can't enter anything while it's highlighted. And the reason for that is that the highlights are actually drawn over the VBE window using the Windows API rather than it being something that happens within the VBE. So if I allowed you to move around and scroll around the VBE, what you might find when the code comes to remove the highlight is it removes it in the wrong place. And because the highlight, the rectangle, is literally just inverting whatever is on screen, you'd end up with two permanently inverted rectangles, which wouldn't be much fun. So no, the screen is locked while you do that. But obviously you've got the other ways to identify the references. You can list them all using the dialogue that I demonstrated. You can just jump directly to the next reference and so on. So
you may have just, while we're still on highlighting, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, John.
That's okay.
Similar question, ifs and else's and things like that. Can you also find nested pairs in those ways, and fors and necks and do untils?
No, it
loops?
doesn't. It doesn't do that. It's an interesting thought to make it do that, but it doesn't know it's declarations and references, keywords. It's looking for the exact same keyword, and then parentheses and speech marks.
Right, that would be useful, but I can imagine it could be complicated. Probably useful for when you have very, very complex code and you've got things in the wrong order to actually identify what is wrong.
Yes, useful. Yes, complex. And if I had all the time in the world, it sounds quite interesting to do.
Okay, thank you ever so much. Right,
Cool.
any other questions about highlighting? I think we've covered all the highlighting questions. Whenever you're done on this.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll move on. I won't move away from this code just yet, because the next thing I'm going to demonstrate, again using this code, is VBXtra's ability to rename declarations. So you've already seen that it's able to understand which references relate to which declarations. So as well as doing that, we can then go and rename them. So I'll just rename a few of them in here. I'll start with the event. As usual, there's a number of ways that you can access this functionality. Just this first time, I'll go in through the menu. So you see we've got refactor, rename code cursor. So I've got the dialog comes up, and I think it was the event, wasn't it? So I'm going to call this my event instead. And if I click on rename, you'll see that it will update all the references and the declaration of the event to my event. I'll do the line label as well. And let's do the type. And we could go on, but I won't. The other one that I will demonstrate is that we can also rename the module as well. And it will rename not only the module, but all the references of the module in code. So if I refactor rename this module, I'll call it my class. Then what I will do, if I move back to the original procedure that created an instance of the class, you'll see that it's renamed it there as well. So the proof really is this code still runnable, having made all those changes? So let's just test and step through it and see if we can still run. And you can see there, it's happy to do that. So the renaming that's been carried out has been carried out accurately. I'm going to move on from this one, Colin. If there was any questions on renaming, then could do them now, or I will move on to the next.
I think we've covered everything. You've just shown its renaming globally, I think.
Yes, indeed it is. Yeah. So the next demonstration I'm going to do is the demonstration of what's called sub to run. And also there's sub to run again, the two different commands. The reason I added these commands is that often when I'm developing code and you want to repeatedly run that code, and maybe you need to run something in one place while you're developing the code somewhere else. And then what you need to do is obviously keep navigating between those two places. So you go to the place where you're editing, you make your little edits, you then need to maybe navigate elsewhere to a different module where you're editing your code. And you keep navigating here, so keep going backwards and forth. What sub to run does is it allows you to define a sub to run and then just go and edit code in the place that you want. And then you can run the sub to run. And by the way, it's called sub to run. It also works with functions. And it just allows you to run it using either the menu or a single keystroke. So what I'm going to do is set the sub to run to be the sub here, run using sub to run. So if I come in, I'll do it in the menu, sub to run, and set sub to run. And it gives us a little dialog confirming that's what it's done. Now, if I move my cursor cursor is here. Now, obviously, if I press F5, cursor is here, it's going to run. Not much of a surprise, run normally, and we get cursor is here. But if I use sub to run, then because I set the sub to run to be run using sub to run, not cursor is here where my cursor is, then we get run using sub to run. And by default, run using sub to run uses the F6 key. So instead of F5, you just use F6. And if I press it a few times, you'll see it's run using sub to run. And if I'm in some other module completely gone back into this thing, class and keep pressing F6, then you'll see run using sub to run is still running. So I can be editing code in one module and running a procedure elsewhere. There's also run again, which is quite like sub to run. It has the same purpose really, but the difference between run again is VBXs automatically tracks which sub you last ran using F5, and it tracks that and then allows you to just automatically rerun it anytime that you want. So if, for example, I put my cursor is here, and run that, and then I can just be somewhere else, and I can say run again, which you see is F10, then even though we're in this class module, we've got the last procedure that I ran running, and because it's F10, I can just keep running it with a single keystroke. But it just saves all that navigating around and running around and the time you spend sometimes trying to navigate around your code. I'm going to move on, and next I'm going to show you the history functionality. So I'm just moving back to the Northwind, and the reason for moving back to Northwind is that to demonstrate the history functionality, it's better to have a large code set so you can see that it is properly tracking everywhere that I move around. So what I'm going to do is just to show you in the toolbar here, there's 3 grayed out little buttons. There's history to go back, there's show history, which is a drop down to show all the history, and then there's history going forward. You can see that these are grayed out at the moment. I've literally opened this project, so there is no history to show. As I start moving around, you'll notice those controls, instead of being grayed out, become enabled, and then I can use them. But first of all, I'm just going to move around through a few different modules. And let's have a look at a form here. So I'm just trying to simulate me going around and looking at various different bits of this database. So having built up a bit of history, what we can now see is that these controls are enabled. I'm currently at the furthest forward bit of history, hence forward is not. But as soon as I start going back, you'll see it becomes enabled. And if I show you all the history here, then this is all the places that I just looked at. You can see each of the different modules here that I opened. The one at the top, the most recent one is at the top. It's got the angle brackets on it. That's because that's where I am right now. And what I can do now, if I want to use the back button, it will start moving me backwards through all of those different modules that I was looking at until eventually I get right back to where I started there, and it's become grayed out. You can also now see that forward is enabled, and I can go back forward through all the different places I was looking at. I can also use the drop down if I want to. So if I click on this one, class error handler, you see it jumps me to class error handler. Now that one is highlighted in the drop down. Never get lost in your code again. The next demonstration I'm going to do, just a quick demonstration of something that's called the module picker. And this is just an alternative really of moving around, navigating around from one module to another. It's again, very similar to something that exists in Visual Studio, if anyone's familiar with using that. I'm very keyboard centric when I'm creating code. I don't like to take my hands off the keyboard to use the mouse to click into the project window over here, as you often have to do. And it just gives a quick way of moving from one module to the next. The module picker shows the modules in the order that were last viewed. And then for all modules that have never been viewed during this session, it lists them all alphabetically after that. And it's just a very quick way of navigating through different modules. Particularly, again, maybe you're writing code in one module and needing to refer to another. A single click of Alt and Tab will take you between the two modules, or you can repeatedly click to move into different modules entirely. So you can see at the moment I'm in Mod Math. If I show the module picker here, then the previous module I was looking at was Report Employee Email List. And if I'm currently holding down my Control key on my keyboard, as soon as I release that key, it will navigate me to that report. And if I do a single press of Control and Tab again, it will take me back to Mod Math and back to the report. But if I don't want to navigate just between the two modules, I want to go to a different one, I can just press tab key a few more times, or indeed I can use the arrow keys if I want to move up and down. So I want to look at mod companies now, and it takes me to mod companies. So the module picker again, then I was looking at the report, and it's just another way of navigating around your project. Next demonstration is another very quick demonstration. It's a full screen command. And what this does is it just makes the code pane take up the entire screen and hide in all the other VBE panels. Again, it's very similar to some functionality that you get in Visual Studio and uses the same keyboard shortcut as well. So you can use a keyboard shortcut. I'll show you the first time using the toolbar, the full screen command. So it just jumps you into a kind of full screen mode. So it's hidden all the other panels. It just gives you that bigger view. You can then jump directly back. You can use the toolbar like that. The additional thing it will do, if you have your VBE minimized or not set to use the full screen, there we go. Let's say it's only taking up a little part of your screen. When you do full screen, as well as maximizing the code pane within the VBE, it maximizes the VBE window to take up the full screen. You'll see at the moment the VBE is minimized. Now it's maximized, and then I can go back and it puts everything back just as it was before. Next quick demonstration is themes.
John, hold on.
Yeah, no, go on. Sorry.
I think we're doing a lot of the questions as we go along, so we might as well carry on if it's all right. Still on the history. Is it a module history or a procedure history?
It's character level.
Right.
So it tracks everywhere you move within your database down to the character level.
And therefore, I think the answers this question. Does history go back to the line you were at within a procedure? Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I meant that. Yeah, I realized while I was doing it that every time it was only at the first line, but yes, it will jump.
And a question I hadn't thought of. If you close the module, could you still get back to it through the history? Or does it disappear from the history?
If you close the module project,
yeah, the module, the code window for that module.
No, it will take you back to where you were. It will take you. It will display the appropriate module and take you back to the line and column that your cursor was at.
You've thought of everything. Well done.
I've tried to.
Okay, one last question from history from Crystal about back to sub to run. I think we know the answer is, does it work for private subs behind an open form? Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. As long as it's runnable.
Please carry on.
Yeah, so themes is the next piece of functionality to demonstrate. This is I like to believe improved version of this tab of this dialog, which is where you can go in and change the font and the color scheme and whether the margin indicator bar is present. There's a number of problems with this dialog in that it allows you to use, I'm sure we've all experienced it, multiple weird different background colors, along with allowing you to select things that are entirely irrelevant. So indicators for normal text, and there isn't an indicator. And then things that only have indicators in the margin indicator bar, you can select text colors for, and so on. It's not a great dialogue. So I have an alternative for this. So if I go into the themes dialog, there's an option here. So VB Extras, it comes with a few built-in themes, but the idea is you can create your own or customize them. And what I'll do first of all is I'll just apply a different theme. So at the moment, we've only got these few themes. You can see that the theme, you'll recognize it other than the very large font. What I'm using is a default large font theme. But I could use, say, a blue theme, which, yes, is very blue. And not very usable. The theme I do use most of all myself is a dark theme. I'll show you it with the large font, although it's not, I normally use a much smaller font. And you can see that's much quicker and simpler. And you can obviously also create your own theme. So if we go into view themes, and maybe I want to add a new theme, and I'll base it on the dark large font. And this is the VB Extras version of the dialog we looked at earlier, the one that allows you to choose the colors and so on. And this just, it provides a more logical view, really, and allows you to only make selections where it's appropriate to make a selection. So, for example, there's no point selecting the foreground or indeed background color for a bookmark because it just doesn't have one. But if I show you just very quickly, I'll create some probably quite unpleasant options here, and we'll change the font. The fonts that are highlighted, by the way, are the ones that work with the highlighting. They're monospaced. And maybe we'll just change the font size a little bit. And I will give it a name, a new theme. And you can see we've got apply now clicked, so you can either apply it or just save it. We'll apply it now, and I'll click OK. And you can see we've got a new theme applied. Not very readable, but it's applied. And what I will do is go back to a more readable version. Okay, it's just a quicker and more logical way of doing what you can already do in the VBE, but it just gives you that option. You know, if you at times like one color scheme and at other times like another one, you can just immediately click between the two. Going to move on, and next I'm going to demonstrate show all members. So yeah, show all members it's an improved version of the VBE's list properties and methods dialog, which you normally display by pressing a dot or period after the name. So for example, that is the VBE's version. You can see you only get to see, I think there's 7 items in there, and there's no other information. You can't filter, you can't sort, and so on. It is just what it is. But VBE Extras has its own version, which you can show via the menu, or you can also show it, and the way I use this almost all the time is using the keyboard shortcut of Control and dot. So instead of dot to show the VBE's version, you've got Control and dot to show VBE Extras version, which shows you the same items. See from the names, it's the same things being listed, but you've got a lot more information here. So you've got the full signature of what it is that you're looking at, as well as the type, because this is all the members of Do Command, they're all subs, but it will show you the particular type where it's relevant to do that. And you can also filter if you want. So you can filter by, say, a code. One of the things I was always doing was I could kind of remember the name of the thing that I wanted, but it didn't always start with that. And so you'd have to hunt through this whole massive list of options, trying to find the one that you're after. Obviously, if you can just type in and filter, then it's so much quicker and simpler to be able to find that particular one that you wanted. Having found the thing that you wanted, so say maybe I wanted to find refreshed record, I can then insert it. Here's another, just a little example for form. So that's the VBEs, probably what you're familiar with, to see all of the members of the form object there. Obviously with show all members, I'll show you just through the menu. So you can see this is the show all members here, Control and dot. You get that big list of all the different types, and you can filter by the type as well. So we've got properties and subs here. So if you know it's a property that you're wanting, you can do that. Or if it's just a sub that you're after, you can filter by that. And as a sub, or you can filter by the name and so on. Show all members doesn't just work as well where you would type a dot normally. So it's kind of aware of the context of what you're writing. So what the VBE will do, if you type dim x as, then it will come up with the little dialog. You can see the list properties and methods with all the same problems. If I do Control and dot now, VBXs will show you the same members in its own show members dialog. But the difference now is that you're only seeing the libraries that are available. So instead of seeing with the VBEs dialog, each individual member, you're just seeing the libraries that are available to select from. So for example, if I want to select something from the VBA library, I'll press Control and dot again, it'll show me all the things that exist within VBA library. Maybe I want collection. Now you can see that X is defined as a collection. If I press Control and dot now, you see we've got the list of all the items you would expect to see for collection. Again, double click on it, insert that for me. Maybe I want to define it as a database. I know that's in the EAO library. And then I can double click. And now I will have all the members of database. I mentioned that it's context sensitive as well. So not only does it know when VBXs know when you're after an as keyword, it gives you the options that you might want to use. So if I define this as a particular enum, and obviously if you press equals here, the VBE will come up with its own little dialog. VBXs, again, it's aware of the context. If I press Control and dot, it will show me the same members of the enum. Again, with that little bit more information, it's telling me that they are enum members. Obviously, I can filter, and it also just shows me the signature in this case, because it's an enum member. It's actually a long value, and it just shows me that value there. So the next thing I will show is this dialog here. This dialog drive, just my heading really is so unhelpful when there's no way of filtering for the particular library that you might want to add a reference to, and shows very little information about it. So I created my own version. It's available in the menu, or we can just click on the toolbar here. And what you can see here is that we've now got a list of the references we have at the top from the project, then a list of all the references that are available. You can filter, say we want to find the Microsoft scripting runtime. You can filter, you can click and it adds it. Or if you, it remembers the most recent libraries that you added a reference to. So you can just click on most recent, just shows a little list there. You can highlight the one you want and OK, and it will add that as well. Also shows much more information. You can filter how you want to filter. You can filter by different things if you want as well. You can also, if you want to explore what's in this library, if you right click and click on explore, then it will just show you the members and the members. I'll just collapse that and you'll see that these are the things that you would expect to see in scripting. So just if you want to just check what's in that library before you add it, you can just have a little look. I'm going to demonstrate special binding, which relates to the previous two functions as well. What special binding does is it allows you to have IntelliSense that you would normally get with early binding, but while using late binding. So if you don't want to have a fixed reference to a library. So how this works, first thing in the scripting runtime here, I'm going to click on copy as ref. And all that does is it just adds a little bit of text to the clipboard. And all I do with that text is paste it in at the top of the module that I'm interested in using. And it just contains the path to the particular library and just for reference purposes, the name of the library that was copied. And just to demonstrate very quickly, if I go into the normal dialog that you're very familiar with, there's no reference to scripting here at all. This project does not know what scripting is. VBExtras does. And I will show you that. So the way of making this work, obviously, if I click on dot now, VBE doesn't know anything about scripting or the file system object. And if I press dot, you see that it's just giving me no help at all. But VBExtras does, because I added that reference at the top of the module, and because I've told VBExtras using this code comment here that this object, I want it to be a file system object in a scripting library. If I press Control and dot to do show all members, it lists me all of the members of file system object. And I can then identify the one I want and insert it. And because get drive returns, I should have shown you get drive returns an iDrive, which iDrive is part of the file system object, it's part of the library. I can just carry on going and it will return whatever I select. And the dictionary does the same. I won't demonstrate that. I'm next going to demonstrate really quickly updating parameters. So you see we've got a little function here, test target. It takes no parameters at the moment. You see it's being called here and here as well, and they're passing in no parameters and no arguments as you would expect. But we have the ability here to add parameters. So say I want to call this first param. I've got the usual options you would expect. Value type, I'm going to say it's long. The value to inject at the call site, because it's required, there must be something passed in, obviously. So we'll pass in 1 and add that, and you'll see that as well as adding that parameter to the function, it adds the argument to all the calls of the function. And not only that, but where the return value has been used, and we must use parenthesis around what we pass in, we'll add the parenthesis here. It won't, because we're not using the return value. And super quickly, I will add another parameter. We'll call it second param. Maybe this one's a string. And we'll add it. Now we've got the choice of adding it, obviously, in a different position now that we've got the option. And we'll pass in 2. And it's added that. We've also got the option to reorder parameters. So if I don't like the way that I added them, I can just say I want the second one to be the first. And again, it not only updates the function, but updates all the calls of the function as well. And just to show you, it's also updating it in other modules here as well as we're going. Colin, depending on what you want to do, I can leave it there. There's a couple of other things I could demonstrate or finish there, or questions.
I get the impression that people would like you to cover everything you can, really, although some people, Ben's just said he has to go. I'm just checking with Alex Dents what time he needs to be gone by, so he is able to do his trailer for next month. Alex, if you can just turn your microphone and I'll answer that question directly.
So I have a little time, no problem. I'm
Lovely.
very interested in John's tool. Please carry on.
Okay, thank you ever so much. Right, if everyone's happy, I'm going to get into carry on. If there's anyone about to leave who's got a question that hasn't been answered, do so now. Put your microphone on and I'll call you. Aid.
Ben, I don't know if he's left yet. He was just saying he's going to leave, but he did ask, can you only have one ref comment in the header of a module?
No, you can have as many as you want.
Thank you.
This special binding is just incredible. There's so many wonderful features in here, really is.
I will show next interfaces, and I added this one because of the demonstration that was done last month. Philip Stiffel was talking about interfaces and implementing interfaces and so on. Then VBXers will help you both implement interfaces and extract interfaces from existing modules. So here's just a very little demonstration. So this is class 1. You can see that there's literally nothing in class 1. There's certainly no real code in there, but we do have the option to implement an interface. I've got 3 interfaces here. This is the toString interface, and I'll just demonstrate implementing an interface. So if I select the dialog, it asks me which one. Obviously, I've got a choice here. There's 3. I'm going to implement i2string. A couple of other options around how that implementation will work. There's various different ways you can do it. If I click on implement, then what you will see is the one method from i2string implemented in class 1. You see it adds the implement statement. It adds, because of the options I chose, a public toString method, and then the implementation of the interface i2string there. Not only can you implement an interface, but you can actually extract an interface from an existing class and then have it implemented in that class. So here's class 2. You see it's got two members, a sub and a function. And what we can do if we wanted to create an interface from this, so that you could then maybe implement that interface in other classes, we can select extras and extract interface. And it's suggesting I call it, you can call it what you want, iClass 2, let's go with that. You can select the members. You don't have to have all of the members in the interface, but say I want both of them here. And again, other options about exactly how you want it implemented. And when I click extract now, what you'll see is a new iClass 2 created, and which will contain stub for the two members that I selected. Then that interface will be re-implemented here in class 2. You can see it now implements iClass 2, and iClass 2 has those stub members. It's now the interface. The last demo I was going to do was actually just to demonstrate that VB doesn't just work in Access. It does work in other host applications as well. And there's some functionality that's specific to, particularly to Excel, just to do a quick demonstration of that. So you can see here, we've just got a simple sheet with some shapes and a table on it. And here we've just got a very little bit of code. And the functionality that I'm going to demonstrate here is the ability to navigate between shapes, tables, or indeed ranges and the code. If I click on here, you see that I've got a context, an item in the context menu here. It allows me just a few options. But one of the things I can do is go to on action. With shapes in Excel, you can define a macro to be the target when it's clicked. And sometimes if you've got a large workbook, it can be very difficult to find that. You've got to manually do it by looking in what's in a sign macro. It's that, well, I'll go and find that then manually. But VB actually just does that for you. So if I click on this menu item, go to on action, you see it's jumped directly to that. We can also do the reverse. So if I say, well, what's the target of what shape, if any, is targeting this particular sub, I can go into the menu and go to the shape with this name, or that calls this procedure. So let's find out what that is. So this is what we've found. I want to go to it. Yep. You can also jump from a table. Where in my code is the name of this table used. It gives me the little dialog here. There's only one. It shows me there. I've highlighted it. If I click on go to, I jump directly to it. That really is it. The only thing I wanted to say, if people do download VB Extras, if you install it and use it, if you have any issues, the first thing to do, there's a little help menu here. You can go to this item here, takes you online, and there is a user guide here. It has details on each of the functions, each of the commands. So if you're not sure how does something work or why is it working like that, the first thing to do would be to come here and have a look in the user guide. The other thing, if you experience problems or something isn't working the way that it should, again, in the help menu, report a bug, take you to the bug reporting page there. If you are using it and you have problems, please let me know. I want to fix those problems. That's it. Other than
John,
the quiz question.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in just 30 seconds or so. Just give people a chance to get ready for that. Thank you ever so much. That was an absolutely incredible presentation. The amount of features in here, although you said that's it, it's not it. It is a small part of what this does. And I've had this for 6 months and I'm still really a novice about the features here. I learn something new every time I actually hear you speak about it. So there's a huge amount here. If there's a 60-day evaluation, and from the web page that we said before, and after that, then if you do decide to buy it, the price is, if you haven't just said this,
$30 a year.
A year, right? Okay, thank you. So I think people would agree that that's very reasonable for what it is. But here is your chance, one of you, to win a free copy of it. Do you want to ask the question, or shall I?
You go for it.
Right. Okay, this is available for several different VB Office programs in the VB editor. Which version was the functionality added to Access? In other words, what was the first version of VBA Extras that supported Access? Please put your answers in the chat. Alex Dents, you have won the prize instantly. Well done. That was very impressive. And no, it wasn't 16 or 2010. It was 1.2 indeed. So, Alex, you get the prize. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Obviously,
you.
you'd read the
Very,
help.
very impressive tool.
It really is, isn't it? Right. So, and we're going from one com add-in to another com add-in to another one next month for Alex. Before we move on to Alex, then, right, the comments in the chat, which I would save if I were you, John, are really so positive and so complimentary. People are just highly praising, and I hope a lot of people download it. More importantly, I hope a lot of people then buy it. It really isn't the same as MZ Tools. It's equally good in a different way. And it's, as you demonstrate things, I think of all these frustrations I've had with the VBE, but never been able to do anything about, and just accepted them. And this has solutions. You know, there's so many: the references dialogue, the special binding, the go-to, etc., etc., etc. So, any questions that haven't yet been covered, please put your microphones on, and I'll come to you. Neil.
Tim and I both asked a similar question. There's many of your features had an IntelliSense, like where your dot did the completion and offers all the options. And each of those had an obvious thing you wanted to do. You wanted to insert the selected item once you'd found it. Does that insertion itself have a shortcut, like a double click, or it's the default for the enter key, or a hit tab or something?
Yes. And I can't remember the particular shortcut for show all members, but yeah, you can just, once you've highlighted an item, you can then, that's insert, isn't it? So it'll be Alt and I to insert it.
But you can also add shortcuts, can't you, now in the latest version,
yes,
John?
You can, yeah.
So if there isn't a shortcut and you want it, add it yourself.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering if there was like a consistent one, like you hit tab with the normal IntelliSense and it completes it. It's an obvious thing where you'd have a consistent shortcut, say, oh, that's the one I want.
No, there's not anything. No, not anything like that. Although it's an interesting thought to do it, but no, there isn't at the moment.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm going to thank John again. There's obviously a lot more you could have covered if we had a 3-hour session. Mm-hmm. I will now take over the screen again. We'll go to next month. And as I say, there's a theme that I wish I could say it was all carefully planned, but it wasn't. But again, we're talking about com add-ins next month as well. And Alexander Dents from Germany has got a way of utilizing the best features of the AI assistants, which is basically yourself. And for somebody like me, who's probably forgotten more than he still knows, and often it's a matter of saying, I've done that, but what was the answer there? This might be the solution for me as well. Alex, please take it away. And do you need to share your screen?
No, I do not need to share my screen. If you want, I can turn on the video. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation and the possibility to show my AI add-ins for the Microsoft Access. So I thought I would just say a few sentences to do a short teaser. And imagine that you have an assistant, an AI-powered assistant that not only helps you to generate and enhance VBA functions, but also understands and integrates within your own code base. So not only the code in your current database, but all of your code. My add-ins, and I will show 2 of them, extend the VBA editor with OpenAI's most powerful models, enabling you to create custom functions, expand your command bar, and even call AI-generated results directly within the VBA. And it doesn't stop there. The add-ins also let you build fully customizable ribbons with AI-driven actions, making Access more powerful than ever. Users can use predefined ribbon actions and interact with the AI in your forms and controls. The company's knowledge, all of your knowledge can be built directly into your application, making it accessible to the AI and through that to your users. This means AI-empowered assistants tailored specifically to your business, helping users work smarter and faster within their familiar environment. So I will show the difference between the two AI add-ins in the next time, and will explain for what purpose which AI add-in is built for. The first generation of my add-ins, which can be seen as a GitHub Copilot for all the people who knows the Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code GitHub Copilot, it's like the Copilot for the VBA environment, but does a lot more. And the second generation, which is the new generation, which can use your custom knowledge to build the tools you ever wanted in your workflows. So join my session and discover how AI can take your Access development to the next level.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Alex. And we look forward to that for next month. I'm sure we will have yet another very impressive session to build on for today's one as well. And then in April, we've got a change of plan. John Heiser's session is being postponed. Hi, John. I see you're here as well. And we've got Anders Ebro, who is going to be jetting in from Denmark virtually to give a talk to us about class modules. So again, much of these things have got a lot of commonality in there. And in May, I'm hoping to show you about the new Access feature, if it's ready by then, of responsive forms and support for large monitors and so on. That's at the moment hopeful rather than actually knowing that it'll be ready in time. So thank you, Alex. Any questions for Alex while we've got Alex still at the microphone? Please put your microphone on if you want to ask him anything. And while I'm giving people a chance to do so, just to say, Alex, I actually managed for the first time ever to defeat Copilot. Instead of guessing an answer to something, it just hung. For 10 minutes, it failed to give me any answers whatsoever. Not a difficult question. I asked it where the Aptos font was, where the key for it was in the registry, and also where it was stored in Windows. It's not in the standard area, and it couldn't answer the question. I know where it's stored now in File Explorer, but I still haven't found it in the registry. And if you defeat Copilot, it just does a little spinning ball forever without ever responding, and you can't get out of it either. You have to crash it to escape. So, Ben.
So I've heard that too.
Oh, sorry, Alex. Sorry.
No problem. I've heard such problems too. There are quite a few times where it doesn't find an answer, and then the spinning is just forever there.
Ben, over to you.
So, Alexander, what's the situation with your AI sharing source code on the public internet? Like, do you have any protection, or do you use an AI that isn't gonna possibly steal my source code in ways?
Okay. We are using the API to OpenAI, and therefore your source code and your prompts are protected by default. So you don't have to worry about that. And if you're using your own knowledge, it's stored in a vector database within your OpenAI account. So it is also protected, and you can read the GDPR assignment from OpenAI. So you need to know that there's no possibility or no real danger of putting your code to the public.
Okay, does this require a paid account?
Yeah. You need a paid account to the OpenAI API. So after purchasing my add-in, the first generation of add-in, you only need to pay the usage of the API. The second one, there is yearly fee because the assistance API is constantly changing. So I have to do a lot of updates to make it always working.
All right.
Okay.
I'll learn more about it next week or
Yeah.
next month.
Next month. Okay, so John, thank you again for a truly outstanding presentation, and more importantly, a truly outstanding product that you have been developing over the last few years. And certainly I'm very glad that I have a copy of it and will continue to learn how to make better and better use of it over the coming months. But $30 for a year, I really think is a bargain. So well done to you. Thank you everyone who turned up. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and we'll see you all next month for Alexander Dents. Thank you. See you again.
Bye-bye. Thanks.